fog had come earlier than anyone expected. September was usually crisp in the mornings, but clear. That day, however, the air felt thick and wet, swallowing the sound of the town's early routine. By noon, the haze had rolled down from the hills, cloaking every street, every lamppost, every yard in a white silence that was too heavy to feel natural. I worked at the small library near the center, and by 3 o'clock there were hardly any visitors left. People didn't like driving when the fog was this thick, and those who came inside to return books did it nervously, like the air outside pressed against their backs. Even through the wide glass doors, the fog looked alive, shifting, curling, bending around things it should have revealed. At 4, I decided to leave early. There was no point in waiting for closing time. My boss had already texted me, "Lock up when you go. Nobody's coming today." The street outside was an endless gray tunnel. The usual shops across the road weren't even visible. The traffic lights glowed faintly, their colors dulled as though the fog was swallowing the brightness itself. I started walking toward my apartment, about 15 minutes away. 10 steps in, I realized I couldn't hear my own footsteps. The sound just dissolved. I stamped harder, but the echo I expected never came back. The silence made my chest tighten. I wasn't used to the world being this muted. Even the distant hum of cars was gone. Halfway home, I heard something. Not footsteps, not voices. A scrape, slow and dragging, like someone pulling a heavy bag across the pavement, just at the edge of where the fog thickened. I froze, peering ahead, trying to make out a shape. Nothing. The sound stopped as soon as I did. I told myself it was probably someone else walking, the fog playing tricks. But as I forced myself to keep moving, the scraping began again. Closer this time, louder, heavier. I sped up, almost jogging now. My heart thudded, but even that noise felt swallowed. I thought about calling someone just to hear another voice, but when I pulled my phone out, the screen was dead. Not off, not cracked, just a blank gray glow, like the fog had seeped inside it. I pressed the buttons, held the power down, but it was useless. The scrape stopped again. Then came another sound, a faint exhale. Not mine, not human, wet, guttural, like the fog itself was breathing. And then, just a few meters ahead, something shifted in the haze. A silhouette, too tall, too crooked, shoulders hunched unnaturally high, legs too long. It didn't move like a person. It only tilted its head slowly, as if listening. My mouth went dry. I stepped backward, praying it hadn't seen me, though I couldn't even tell if it had eyes. The fog curled around it, hiding its edges. Then it stepped forward. Once, twice. Each movement carried that same dragging sound. I turned and ran. Running didn't feel like running. The fog was so heavy it swallowed distance. No matter how fast I moved, the street seemed endless, stretching on and on with the same dull outlines of lampposts and power lines. I knew this road better than my own living room, but right now it felt like I had stepped into a copy of it, one that was slightly wrong. I risked a glance behind me. Nothing but white. No figure. No dragging sound. I slowed, gasping, tried to convince myself I had panicked over nothing. Fog plays tricks. It bends sound, smears shapes, turns your imagination against you. That was when I noticed the houses. Every window was dark. Not just closed curtains, dark. Like there was nothing behind the glass. No furniture, no rooms, just a flat sheet of black. I stepped closer to one porch and squinted inside. The house wasn't empty. It wasn't even a house. The walls were there, the outline was there, but the inside was smeared with the same lifeless gray glow as my phone. Like the fog had bled straight through the bricks and hollowed it out. I stumbled back to the street, my pulse racing. That's when I heard the scraping again. Behind me. Louder. I bolted forward. My shoes slapped the pavement, but made no echo. The air pressed down on me like water. I couldn't even hear myself breathe anymore, though I felt the fire in my lungs. My surroundings blurred into shifting walls of mist, and for one terrifying second, I thought I had turned in circles. Then, out of nowhere, I saw a figure. Not the tall one from before. This was smaller, nearer. A girl, maybe 12, standing at the curb. Her hair hung in front of her face, damp and dripping as if she had just climbed out of a lake. "Are you lost?" she asked. Her voice was hollow, distant, as though it came through a broken speaker. I froze. Relief flickered. Another human. But something about her stillness cut that thought short. She wasn't shivering, though the air was damp and cold. Her head tilted too far to one side, an angle that should have snapped her neck. I didn't answer. I just kept moving, trying to circle around her without breaking eye contact. She turned her head further, following me. Her voice came again, but her lips didn't move. "Are you lost?" The scrape returned, louder than ever, as if it was right behind her. She didn't react. She only stared as the sound grew and grew until it was all I could hear. I couldn't take it. I ran again, sprinting blindly into the fog. My legs burned, my vision blurred. My thoughts were fractured. Get away, don't look back, don't stop. Finally, I saw something new, the faint outline of a bus shelter at the corner of the street. I dove inside, collapsing onto the cold metal bench. It felt solid, real, grounding me for the first time since I left the library. I waited, heart hammering, ears straining for the scrape. Nothing, only silence. Then I noticed the glass wall of the shelter. My reflection was missing. I sat frozen in the bus shelter, staring at the glass panel. My reflection wasn't there. I waved my hand in front of it, pressed my palm against the cold surface. Nothing. Just the pale, shifting fog beyond, bleeding through the glass as though it had erased me from existence. The scrape came again. This time, it wasn't behind me. It was inside the shelter. I lurched off the bench, stumbling into the corner. The shelter wasn't large, maybe 6 feet wide, barely deep enough for a bench. But now, somehow the space stretched, warped. The other end seemed farther away, swallowed in haze. A shadow flickered in that haze, tall, angular, moving with that steady, dragging rhythm I'd been hearing all night. "Who are you?" I croaked, my voice breaking. The shadow didn't answer. It folded. That's the only word I have for it. Its body bent at impossible joints, turning in on itself like paper being crumpled slowly, then smoothed out again. Each time it moved, the air rippled and the fog thickened. I stumbled backward out of the shelter, but the street outside had changed. The houses were gone. The lampposts were gone. There was only the road, stretching in both directions into a blank wall of gray. And then I realized the fog wasn't around me. I was inside it. The scrape grew louder, closer. My ears rang with it. I turned, and the girl was there again, the one with dripping hair. She stood just a foot away. Her eyes were pits, twin hollows that seemed to pull the fog inside them. Her voice whispered inside my head this time. "You don't belong here." My knees buckled. I staggered, clawing at the empty air. "I just want to go home," I shouted, though the sound barely carried. The girl tilted her head, and behind her, the tall shadow grew taller. Its outline brushed the tops of the fog walls, stretching upward as if it had no end. The scraping stopped, replaced by a silence so deep it made my teeth ache. Then, with one lurching step, it moved toward me. Its limbs didn't bend right. They extended like arms pulled from sockets, too long, too thin. The fog swirled around it in coils, pulling tighter, and I felt my chest compress as though the air had thickened into water. I tried to run again, but my legs no longer obeyed. The road beneath me rippled like liquid. My feet sank an inch, then two, dragging me down. The girl watched, expressionless. The tall shadow leaned forward. I felt something brush my cheek. Not a hand, not flesh, but a vacuum. A pull, like it wanted to take more than my breath. Like it wanted to draw out everything that made me me. I screamed, and the fog screamed back. A chorus of voices, dozens, hundreds, all overlapping. Each cry echoed with terror, as though I wasn't the first to stumble into this place. The shadow loomed closer, blotting out everything. And then, just as it reached for me, the fog shifted. Through the swirling gray, a tiny sliver of orange light flickered dawn. The sliver of orange cut through the gray like a knife, faint but steady. The fog recoiled at first, curling away from the glow, but the tall shadow did not. It leaned forward, stretching impossibly closer, its outline distorting as though the light was peeling pieces of it away. I forced my legs to move, dragging them free from the rippling road. Each step was like wading through cement, but the glow ahead pulled me forward. The girl stayed where she was, her hollow eyes fixed on me. I heard her whisper one last time, "It follows you." Then she dissolved into the mist, as though she'd never been there at all. The shadow screamed, not like a voice, but like metal tearing, a shriek that made my bones rattle. I stumbled forward, clutching my ears, and when I glanced back, I wished I hadn't. Its form had split apart. Dozens of arms, dozens of faces, stretching and collapsing in endless folds. For a moment, I thought I saw people I recognized. A neighbor, a cashier from a store near my street. My own reflection among them, eyes wide, mouth open in terror. I bolted. The glow grew stronger with each desperate step, until finally the fog began to thin. The road solidified under my feet again, cracked asphalt, gravel crunching like it should. I could see the outline of the bus stop sign, this time where it belonged, rooted into the ground. And then, with one final step, I broke through. I collapsed onto wet grass, gasping for air. The fog behind me still roiled, but now it hung only at the edges of the street, pale and weak in the morning light. The sun had risen, a hazy, golden disk behind drifting clouds. The world looked normal again. Birds chirped. Cars hissed past on the main road nearby. But the fog wasn't gone. It lingered at the tree line, pulsing faintly, as if watching. I staggered home, shaking so hard I could barely get my key into the lock. When I finally stepped inside, I expected relief, safety. Instead, the silence of my house felt wrong. Too heavy. I went to the bathroom to splash water on my face, and that's when I saw it. The mirror. I was there. My face pale, eyes red, lips trembling, but the fog pressed just behind my reflection, curling against the glass like breath on a window. And for a second, just before I blinked, I saw it standing behind me. The tall shadow, still waiting. And then the mirror went back to normal. Just me alone, but I can still feel the air is too thick in my house. At night, the scrape returns, faint at first, then louder. The girl's voice whispers again. The fog didn't stay behind. It followed me home. It was supposed to be a control burn. The local fire department had announced it days in advance. A small patch of dry grass outside of town would be cleared. Nothing unusual. I even drove out there after work, mostly curious, partly bored. A few dozen people had gathered, leaning against their trucks, talking in low voices while the firefighters did their job. The smoke drifted high at first, curling into the pale September sky. Then the wind shifted. Thick gray swirls rolled down into the valley, spilling faster than they should have. The air went sharp, not like smoke, but metallic. People coughed, waved their hands in front of their faces, muttered about leaving. But then someone pointed. Shapes moved inside the haze. At first, I thought it was the firefighters, silhouettes bending and walking through the low clouds. But then I saw one of them. He stepped out of the fog, gear scorched, mask dangling, eyes wide. He collapsed on the dirt without a sound. And yet, deeper in the haze, something else still shifted. Too tall, too wide at the shoulders, with movements too fluid to belong to a person. I should have left right then, like most of the crowd did. But something held me still. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the way the air pressed against my skin, cold and wet like a storm that hadn't started yet. The firefighters yelled for everyone to clear the area. Their voices sounded strange, stretched, muffled, as though the fog itself swallowed the sound. By the time I finally turned back toward my car, I realized I couldn't see it anymore. The trucks, the dirt road, the tree line, everything was gone. The fog had spread wider, thicker, faster than made sense. I wasn't at the edge anymore. I was inside. The first thing I noticed was the silence. Not the kind you get late at night, with the faint hum of crickets or a car engine in the distance. This silence was total, like someone had pressed their hands against my ears. Even my own footsteps seemed dampened, swallowed before they reached me. I walked slowly, arms out in front of me, trying to find the dirt road, the line of trucks, anything familiar. But the fog wasn't just fog anymore. It felt thicker, as though I was moving through invisible threads that pulled at my clothes and skin. A beam of light cut across the haze ahead. Relief hit me. One of the firefighters must still be here. I hurried forward, but the closer I came, the less sense it made. The flashlight didn't waver or move like a handheld beam. It floated, a pale, steady circle glowing in midair. I froze. The glow pulsed, then slid sideways into the fog with a fluid, deliberate motion, like an eye turning away. I tried to convince myself I'd imagined it, but something deep in my chest knew better. That's when I heard the first sound, faint, strained, as if dragged across a long distance. A voice. "Don't stop." I spun, heart hammering, but saw nothing. The fog was absolute. "Keep walking." It was the firefighter, the one who had collapsed. His voice cracked, but it came from everywhere at once, not from behind or ahead. For a moment, I thought maybe he was still alive, disoriented, calling for help. But the way the words stretched and wavered didn't sound human anymore. Still, I moved. I didn't want to stand still, not with that thing gliding somewhere in the haze. I picked a direction and walked. My arms brushed at shapes, low branches, grass, or maybe nothing at all. The fog made it impossible to know. Then I stumbled into something solid. A wooden post. My relief was instant. The fence line along the dirt road. But when I reached out further, my hand didn't find the horizontal beam of the fence. It found something warm. The surface gave slightly under my palm, like skin stretched over bone. I jerked back, ball rising in my throat. The post moved. The fog parted just enough to show me the outline. Not a fence, not a tree. A figure. It stood unnaturally still, face obscured, arms slack at its sides. Its head tilted once in a slow, jerking motion as if listening. I backed away, one step at a time, praying it hadn't noticed me. But it did. The figure exhaled, a wet, rattling sound that sent the fog swirling outward. For the first time, I caught a glimpse of its face. It looked like someone I knew, a neighbor, I thought, or maybe an old classmate. The features were familiar, but wrong. The eyes were blank, glowing faintly, and its mouth hung too wide, like it was waiting for something to crawl inside. I ran. The silence broke in an instant. Pounding footsteps followed, faster than mine, impossibly fast. The fog twisted as if pulled forward by whatever chased me. My lungs burned, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. Ahead, dim through the haze, I saw another light. This one was real, orange, flickering, a fire. If I could reach it, maybe I'd find the others. Maybe the fog hadn't swallowed everything. But as I pushed forward, the voice came again, closer this time. "Don't stop." Except now, it wasn't warning me. It was mocking. The firelight grew brighter, licking at the fog with orange and red, distorting the veil just enough for me to see. A bonfire? No, it was too neat, too controlled. A lantern, maybe, or a flare. Whatever it was, I pushed toward it, lungs searing, footsteps crashing against the damp ground. The thing behind me, the figure with the too wide mouth, never faltered. I could hear its steps snapping branches, its breath rasping, louder and closer with every second. I burst into a clearing. In the center, planted firmly in the earth, was a kerosene lantern burning steady. Relief almost brought me to my knees. Someone must have left it here. But then I noticed something that froze the air in my lungs. There were 3 more lanterns, each placed at precise intervals, forming a rough circle in the fog. And I wasn't alone. Figures stood at the edge of the light. Not one, but several. They didn't move. Their outlines wavered as the lantern's flames bent against the thick air. At first, I thought they were survivors, maybe a search party. But as I squinted, I saw the same blank eyes, the same hollow mouth stretched too wide, waiting. I staggered back toward the center of the circle, but the lanterns hummed, a low, metallic vibration that sank into my bones. The figures didn't cross the boundary. They hovered just outside, staring, swaying slightly, as if tethered to the light. The one that had chased me arrived last. It stopped at the circle's edge, head cocked, body rigid. The voice came again, this time unmistakable. "Don't stop." It wasn't the firefighter anymore. The words sounded layered, hundreds of voices overlapping, as if the fog itself was speaking through them. I covered my ears, but it didn't help. The sound wasn't only in the air, it was in my head. The lantern's flames flickered, as though reacting to the chant. And then, one by one, the lights began to dim. Panic seized me. I rushed to the nearest lantern and grabbed it, desperate to keep it alive. But the moment my fingers brushed the handle, heat shot through me like a live wire. My muscles seized, and for a split second I saw something. Not with my eyes, but inside my skull. A vision. Fog stretched endlessly over fields and forests, swallowing towns whole. People wandering inside it, their faces blank, mouths hanging open. And somewhere deeper, hidden at the core, something vast. It moved slow, like a glacier, but its presence pressed against the world. The figures weren't the monsters, they were its echoes. The fog was only its breath. I ripped my hand away, gasping. My skin where I touched the lantern had blistered. The flame guttered lower. The chanting grew louder. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. The circle broke. Figures poured inside, stepping over the invisible threshold as the final lantern winked out. The silence that followed was worse than the chanting. Dozens of shapes closed in, their blank eyes reflecting faint, unnatural light. I turned and ran again, but this time the fog didn't feel endless. It felt like it was moving with me, steering me. The ground beneath my feet softened, sinking slightly, as though I was running on something alive. The voices shifted tone. Not commands anymore. Not warnings. Laughter. I stumbled forward, half mad with terror, praying for anything familiar. And then, ahead in the fog, I saw it, the outline of a building. A cabin, maybe. Wooden walls, a slanted roof, windows glowing faintly. Hope cut through the panic like a knife. If I could reach shelter, if I could close a door behind me, maybe I'd have a chance. Maybe. But the laughter followed, closer than ever. And when I looked back, I realized the truth. The figures weren't chasing me anymore. They were herding me, straight toward the cabin. The cabin loomed out of the fog like a half-remembered dream, its wooden boards swollen from damp, its roof sagging under years of neglect. The faint light in its windows pulsed faintly, not steady like a fire, but with the strange rhythm of something alive. I didn't think. I shoved the door open and slammed it behind me, bracing my weight against the damp wood. My chest heaved as I listened, but the figures didn't follow. The laughter stopped outside. For a moment, only silence. Then I realized the fog hadn't retreated. It pressed against the cabin walls, curling through the cracks in the wood like smoke searching for a way in. Inside, the air smelled of mildew and old earth. A table sagged in the center of the room, surrounded by 3 chairs, each one draped with a coat thick with mold. But what froze me was the 4th chair, upright, polished, waiting, and on the table in front of it a lantern identical to the ones I'd seen in the circle. Its flame burned steady, illuminating a stack of journals. I edged closer, every step making the floor groan. The journals were cracked with age, but the words inside were frantic, smeared as though written in a rush. They don't come from the fog. They're the fog. It speaks in voices of the dead. The lanterns are anchors. Without them, it takes everything. The cabin is not safe. Nothing is safe. This is not shelter. It's a mouth. My blood turned to ice. I staggered back, but before I could move farther, the door rattled violently. The figures outside hadn't left. They scraped against the wood, their nails dragging in unison. Then the lantern on the table flickered. A low groan vibrated through the cabin's frame. Dust rained down from the beams above. The floor shuddered under my boots. It wasn't the wind. The entire structure was breathing. The windows blackened as the fog thickened, sealing me inside. In the reflection of the glass, I saw not my own face, but there's dozens of hollow eyes staring back. My body felt paralyzed, like the air itself had turned heavy. The journal's last entry glared up at me, scrawled in frantic, jagged letters. If you sit in the chair, it spares you. For a while, the upright chair by the table seemed to lean toward me, its shadow stretching across the floor like an open hand. My body screamed to run, but where? Outside, the fog waited, hungry. Inside, the cabin's walls pulsed, the boards swelling and shrinking with the rhythm of a heartbeat. The scraping stopped. Silence again. and then a single knock at the door. Not a pounding, not claws, just one calm, deliberate knock. I sank to my knees, unable to breathe. My eyes locked on the chair. The lantern sputtered, nearly out. The walls exhaled. Somewhere deep in the fog, laughter rose again. I don't remember making the decision. I only remember standing, my legs moving without command, lowering myself into the waiting chair. The moment I touched it, the lantern flared back to life. The cabin stopped breathing. The fog outside retreated a fraction, like the tide pulling back from shore. But the chair held me fast. My arms, my legs, they wouldn't move. In the window's reflection, I didn't see myself anymore. I saw another blank-eyed figure, mouth stretched wide, waiting for the next person who would stumble into the fog.